Seed laws and agreements. Regulations of seeds. There is 16 different laws, directives and regulations on the production, packaging and marketing of seeds in EU. Then there are also own national laws and regulations for each country. The EU has been keen to create a new seed law to replace the old, complex and diverse laws, regulations and rules. For the second time, the attempt has been rejected and failed. The third time is ongoing. A new seed law came into force in Finland in 2019. The seeds can be divided into 4 broad categories. The sorts, also called cultivars, they are homogenic, and there are a lot of laws, strict laws, saying how should a sort look like. Then there are land races. They are also called heirloom or heritage sorts. They can be both homogenic and heterogenic. Then there are population sorts. They can also be either homogenic or heterogenic. Population sorts are something, a material that has been made. So when you create a populational sort, you mix a lot of different traits or sorts or land races, and then you just cultivate it, and then you let it adapt to the local conditions. It can be both homogenic or heterogenic. It depends on how you are building up these populational sorts. The evolutional sort, it's pretty much the same, but evolutional, you let totally the nature take care of it. So you're not interfering with this a lot of choices. The new Finnish seed law that came into force, it was due to the changes in the seed market that are being made in European Union. And much behind this is that to get it more simple with seeds, but also to take into account the needs for organic farmers. And due to this, then in this chapter 2 about marketing of seeds, there was then made some exceptions according certified seeds, because up till now you could only sell certified seeds. So the seed law is stating marketing of seed, only certified seed can be marketed. Exceptions from paragraph 1, uncertified seed may be marketed. Small quantities of seed for scientific purpose or for breeding. Raw seed lots delivered for sorting and packaging, so to another company it's being transferred away from the farm. And then seed of land races for the purposes of conserving genetic diversity. So now the Finnish law makes it possible to also sell genetic diverse seeds, but the problems do not stop here, because there is also the packaging law, and the companies nowadays that are selling seeds, they treat only very big amounts, so 8,000 to 10,000 kilos you need of seeds in order for the companies to clean it up and package it according to the seed packaging law, which means that when there are not that many farmers that would like to buy these seeds, then it makes it too difficult, so it's unprofitable to sell these genetic diverse seeds. This may of course change now with climate change that is ongoing, so the situation may change and there will be more of a market for buying these genetic diverse seeds. The plant health rules in EU are also an old thing, and it was originally set up to prevent the importation of diseases from Africa, South America, and Asia to Europe. And behind this was United Kingdom, the Dutch, and other countries have had colonies in many parts of the world, and they were then importing seeds from these countries, and these seeds then contained diseases which then started to spread. So part is all based on this global trade that is ongoing now. The law also started then to be applied within Europe and even nationally within the borders of a single country, and it's now being applied diligently by authorities at all levels. The most damaging cereal weed is common wild oat up here in Northern Europe, and this is and should of course be controlled. Vegetables, especially tomatoes, but also for example citruses, have many harmful seed-borne diseases in South Europe. So there is this constant fear of getting in some very hazardous diseases that would destroy up in Northern Europe the already very narrow growing conditions that we have due to climate. So if we get these diseases on the top of it, we would not be able to be self-sufficient in producing food for ourselves. An organic regulation in 2007 that was started to be developed, and there has now during these last years being carried out new developing on, among other things, the seed of the organic seeds. So you can see this regulation from 2007, it's taking a very long time then for things to be accepted and come into force. And also this new organic regulation going on from starting then 2018, and there it is, among other things, stated something about heterogeneous organic seed materials. So other countries may not have as much of their own land races saved as we have in Finland. In the gene bank, we have a lot of land races saved. There is also a lot of land races still being cultivated, for example, in Greece and Romania, and so in many parts also in the Southern Europe, so not only up here in Finland where we have a lot of them left. So for all the other ones, they need more heterogenic materials in order to cope with inorganic farming with the weeds. So a heterogeneous material usually is much more higher, and in that way it may compete much better with weeds. So the land races we have in Finland, they are both homogeneous and heterogeneous ones. And the homogeneous ones, they may also be very high, so they may also be very well competing with weeds without using then pesticides. The thing is that in this new heterogenic organic seed material, there is rules that they are very easy, the rules to get it accepted as such a material. So only 3 months, if the authorities are not replying within 3 months, you can start selling the seeds. And the old way to make registration of heterogeneous organic seeds, so land races, mainly it was to register them as a conservation variety, and that took a couple of years usually. So if now there are these new population varieties can go through within 3 months, then again the old ones, for example in Finland, it has been decided that that will still be following the old rules of registration of conservation variety, then it will take much more time, and that's really unfair that we cannot more fast make the registration of these old land races in Finland. And why this situation have occurred in Finland and not in other countries is, well, first we have a lot of land races still left in the gene bank that now are being reproduced. Another thing is that Finland really did this registration of conservation varieties already much before EU. So it has been a long and old tradition in Finland. And what is special also with Finland is that if you register a land race, you get also the right to sell the seed. So you get kind of monopoly in selling these seeds. This has now been, we have solved this problem in this way that if you take an old land race from the gene bank and reproduce it, you get a lot of seeds, you like it, and you start to produce it, and then you registered it as a land race, then you register it not under the name of the land race. Let's say the land race name was now Jokikylä, then you have to put something more there. So for example, if my name is Annika, then I could register it as Annika's Jokikylä. And in that way, you have not the monopoly of selling the seeds of Jokikylä, but somebody else could also start to adapt it to own local conditions, and in that way then register that as well, and then it could be possible to start to sell it under also, for example, the name of Caroline's Jokikylä, and in that way you could have two, but they are then for separate places geographically and climatologically in Finland. Yes, the heterogenic plant material, that's kind of a new terminology that was introduced with these new organic seed regulations that were developed in Europe. And the problem behind this is that in all those countries where they don't have the land races, and there are a lot in Central Europe that really don't have these land races, and they want to create a kind of an industry in making new heterogenic plant materials that would be both high yielding, but would also be possible to use them in organic farming. What they do is that they then have been mixing at least 5 varieties. It was also stated in 2021 in the regulation that it could be 5, and then they make choices among these mix, they cultivate it, and they see how it starts to adapt to the local conditions. So it can be new or old varieties, so you can have a modern high-yielding variety also in this mix, and it can be uniform. It could be a population or a land race as well, and it can be a farmer's variety, so highlighting who cultivated it for a long time, or a landrace variety, a heirloom variety with a story behind it. Okay, now we introduced already 2 new here, farmer's variety and the landrace variety. As you see, there is a big, kind of terminology behind this. A landrace, it's landrace, the word landrace is used by the gene banks. Then farmer's variety, it's just want to bring forward that it is a farm or a farmer who have been developing this material, so cultivated this for a long time. Of course, the land races in the gene banks usually are also farmers' varieties, but we may not be sure about it. But if it's a named farmers' variety, then we know who was behind it. So there are many nuances, many different words and translations, how people in different countries are bringing these issues forward. Then we have the Convention on Biological Diversity, which is quite old already, from 1992. And based on this, there has been made an action plan, the Biodiversity Action Plan, and this is monitored by the Biodiversity Working Group and set up by the Ministry of Environment So the Ministry of Environment then in different countries are participating in this work on monitoring it. The working group coordinates, monitors, evaluates, and develops the implementation of the program on national level then. So in all countries, and most of the countries have joined the Biological Diversity Convention, there are people who are sitting daily and working with these issues. And regular reporting is carried out, and Finland has made up till now 5 reports based on the agreement. And the 5th national report can be downloaded and found online. The plant treaty. The plant treaty was a large job that had to be done because um, this agreement gives the international recognition to farmers as protectors and developers of plant genetic resources. So it was very easy to go and pick different plants and different things and then start to use them, for example, make patents on them or develop medicines on them, and not giving credit to the farmers who had been perhaps protecting the habitat where these things were found in. So the consumers, as a result of the farmers' work, will benefit from a greater variety of food and agricultural products. So there is a lot of different plant materials that thrives only because we have the farmer. Otherwise, they would die out in the wild nature. So this agreement then provides a long-term legal basis for international agricultural research institutions, because up till now then agricultural research institutions have just been traveling around the world and taking plants from here and there and then developing and breeding them without giving credit to the local farmers. So the agreement will allow the public and private sector to use genetic diversity to improve agriculture, but now there are some rules on it, how to do it. And the agreement also helps to protect genetic diversity, which will enable humanity to cope with unpredictable environmental changes. So a little bit behind this, the scenes of this plant treaty, there was again, of course, that a lot of industrial countries were really going through the genetical materials that you find in, for example, Amazonas or in many African countries. So it was a kind of taking benefit of the rich natural resources that have been preserved in those countries, and many times then also kept up by local farmers and protected by local farmers. So now there is actually an economical system also behind this. So if you are using some of this, then some outcome of this material, then the profit that you will get from that, it can be through this system given back to those countries. When this was done, then it was developed based on that still the Nagoya Protocol from 2010. And the Nagoya Protocol, it's about access and benefit sharing. So it aims to promote the access to the world's genetic resources and equitable sharing of the benefits arising from their use between the countries and provide of the use. So it's based on these former ones. They are all 3 connected. It promotes, of course, also the conservation of biodiversity and the sustainable use of national resources. And it was then adopted by the Conference of the Parties of the Convention of Biological Diversity, and it entered into force 2014. And Finland became a party of the Nagoya Protocol then in 2016. The plant treaty and also the Nagoya Protocol is very strongly connected also to indigenous people. And in Finland, we have the Sami as indigenous people. So indigenous peoples' traditional knowledge and practices related to biodiversity are a particular focus of the EU Convention on Biological Diversity. And the Sami people are engaged in subsistence activities, and they have this traditional knowledge of the use of nature and influence of natural conditions on the range of livelihoods and the seasonal cycle. And there has then been the ACWE have been doing guidelines for the Convention on the Biological Diversity that addresses the considerations of indigenous peoples' sacred sites, local livelihoods, and traditional ecological knowledge and skills, including then the environmental impact assessments. So these are then tools that can be used if somebody started to systematically abuse the rights of the indigenous people. So it means actually that you cannot go into these areas on the map here and do whatever you would like to do there. You have to take into the consideration the indigenous peoples here. And for example, the Sami people are practicing reindeer herding, and that is what, for example, you cannot drive fast with car in those areas because there may be reindeer that are mostly freely moving around, and they are very often also standing on the roads, and this is just one path of their livelihood in these northern areas. So you see there is a lot of nice roads up there, but it takes really a long time if you go by car to drive there, because you have to drive pretty slowly in northern Finland because of the reindeers. And then if you go up to the Norwegian areas, out to the Arctic Sea, then there the roads are really so narrow and steep also. So that's one reason where you can usually not drive more than 50 or 70 in these roads up at the north coast. So these valuable genetic resources of Finland have been mapped, and there has been written a book about this that was published in 2015. Unfortunately, this book is only available in Finnish, but for your knowledge.